They're like, why does it smell like garlic, dude?
Because
There's something I noticed about my voice, dude. It just sounds really nasally. I fucking hate it, dude. Every time I hear myself, dude, I just sound. That's why some people think I sound like Peter Griffin.
it's because you're nasally.
Yeah, I hate it, dude.
I don't think you're nasally.
Dude, I sound nasally, dude.
I think we all sound nasally at some point.
I mean, when people are sick.
Which I may or may not be. So whoever uses the microphone next.
I mean, it's okay. A lot of people
I'm
use
gonna
that. There's been some very questionable people on that microphone, so don't worry.
Like you said, previous like drug addicts or
let's not talk about that.
yeah, we won't.
So James Barlow, man, what the hell you been up to, man? It's been a long time, dude.
It really has. If I can kind of narrow it down to one thing, it's just been surviving the post-graduation life.
Yeah, when'd you graduate?
I graduated a year ago today, so
Congrats.
I appreciate you. It's a fun little experience.
You know what's funny is when I graduate, not if, but when I graduate, I don't even think I'm gonna walk. I just don't care. I mean, that sounds so cold, right? But it's like, I mean, everyone in my family kind of feels that way. It's
It's like, congratulations for doing what you were supposed to do. Like, we had literally doctoral students who they walked across the stage and literally, instead of going back to their seat, they just left.
They just walked out.
Yeah, and then you had other people playing games on their phone, like, that were sitting in the audience. And I was one of them because it's like, I mean, I did it before for high school. I'm giving up 3 hours of my first day out just to watch people walk across the stage.
I mean, shit. I knew one guy, as soon as he walked across the stadium, he had to go do a wedding gig. So he just walked across that stage and just walked straight out. He didn't give he did give a fuck. That's why he showed up. But man's got to work. That's how he feels. Like, I got to work, dude.
Yeah, some people literally, since it was a Saturday, some people still had work, so they'd leave and go right back to their job.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like, it's probably because we're much older now.
Yeah.
And we've been through the whole ringer for the most part. I feel like the whole school spirit, the whole school, quote unquote experience. I don't know. I just never understood it. But that's because I was a socially awkward fuck in high school. So,
Likewise.
I mean, nah, you weren't that bad, dude.
There were one thing that I can agree with is you had your kids that are not kids, but you had your students who were more popular, and we have a whole list of people that we can name off. And then you had your people who were more like popular to their certain crowd. So the whole school experience, I think if you're built for it, depending on what type of high school you go to, it works for you. It's perfect for you, But that's just from our perspective, or at least my perspective and my truth, because I don't know how many of those popular kids like went home and cried themselves to sleep at night for something that.
Said something funny the other day. She was saying, they might be rich now, and they might look like they're enjoying their life, but I guarantee you, in 20 years, they're going to think about killing themselves every single day.
Oh yeah.
The sweetest lady. She just says some of the most outrageous things. It's almost like she listens to what I say sometimes. she tries to. It's like her way of trying to be hip with the kids. But I tell her, you can't say that stuff in public. I've gotten in trouble. I've gotten in so much trouble for saying this stuff.
Yeah, but there's some truth to it, man. Because it's I know you've heard about, and I don't want to call it a theory, but we're gonna say it just for the hell of conversation. The peak theory. The peak theory. Like
Is this an actual thing?
No, that's why I said I don't want to call it a theory. But
okay, the peak theory patented by
James Barlow.
James Barlow.
Yeah, so it's the idea of there are those people who at certain points in their life, you reach like your prime. You're there like what's the best example? You ever remember those Rob Lowe commercials for DirecTV? And he had like, "Hi, I'm the peaked in school Rob Lowe," or peaked in high school Rob Lowe. And he's working in like a burger joint.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, and it's like there's some people who just naturally take longer to bloom, and so they might not be on the forefront of things when they're in high school. They might not be the most popular or most liked. But later on down the road, when they're in their mid to late 20s and they've been stocking away all their time doing things that matter to them and helping build a life that they want to live, they resurface and everybody's like, oh wow, what the hell happened to that kid? Like, when did this happen? And then you have the people who were popular all throughout school graduate, and
let's not say popular, because that makes us sound a little bitter.
Yeah, it makes us sound bitter.
Yeah, it makes people sound really bitter. It's like, ooh, you rejected me in high school, I'm gonna fuck you up, kind of deal.
That's definitely like, and that was the whole thing, like driving over here, where I was like, I really hope that we don't come off as just some bitter
dude. Like, I've said some crazy shit on this show already, dude. It's like, it's whatever. I mean, my voice is nasally. I'm annoying. I'm loud. I say some stupid shit. I don't even fact check myself sometimes. I mean, it's whatever. But continue on, James.
It's about our truth. But so I guess essentially you have people who in high school did a lot better socially than some others, and it's not to say that they can't go on in life. It's just to say that they might plateau a little bit sooner than that kid that wasn't necessarily right up to where they were, I guess, if that makes sense.
It really just comes down to individuals, because some people function differently. Yeah. People are very goal driven, goal oriented. It's always the next step. It's always moving forward. But not everyone's like that, and nothing's wrong with that. I mean, I found myself recently kind of slipping into that. I just really want to have a normal, just have a normal life. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to deal with crazy people from New York. I don't want to deal with rappers sending me mixes when they don't know what's going on. I'd like to be around normal people. I find myself kind of slipping into that sometimes, but I don't know. Then something pisses me off and I'm like, fuck it, I'll just go work from like 9 in the evening to like 7 in the morning and just forget about all this. It's, I don't know. It obviously depends on the individual, but you do see a lot of that where people, where, I mean, high school or just the school environment in general, it's such a bubble, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing like the real world, and there's almost nothing there that emulates what the real world is going to be like, because as we know, once you're out of that bubble, things are much more different. Things are more dangerous sometimes. I mean, socially, things are different as well.
Yeah, you find yourself really slipping into an adjustment period.
Yeah.
And, you get to college for the first time and, mom and dad aren't there. And this is so cliche and everybody's heard it, but mom and dad aren't there to tell you to do your homework anymore or to clean up your room or to make sure that you're going to class and things like that. They're also not around to hold your hand walking through a city that you might have been in for the first time. Say if a student, we have a friend that obviously went to school in Massachusetts, and it's like you don't have that same support system all the way out there with you. So things can become a lot more dangerous, not only in the physical sense, but also in the social sense.
Mm-hmm. Because some people, I don't know what I was going to say. You got anything else to say on that?
I don't know. I want to avoid fluffing things, but yeah, that's really it. Like you said, once you're outside of that bubble, there's a lot of things that high school environment never preps you for. It's you sit in class and you just make the grade and you do all this basic memorization of things, but when you get out into the real world and it comes to applicable skills and things like that, you don't really have any yet.
I mean, that's a whole different game, dude. To be honestly, I mean, I always like to make fun of Asians because I am Asian to kind of use this analogy, but it feels like, there's a lot of soft skills that you need to know that aren't necessarily taught in school, but it's taught by, your social experiences, just eating shit or doing well and talking to people that kind of help make the difference. I mean, I could be wrong, but I heard med schools, they're starting to look at more than just, your GPA and your extracurriculars. They're looking at your soft skills because they don't want to get these these emotionless robots going into med school, if that makes sense.
No,
because the field of healthcare, I mean, it's such a it's obviously a people-oriented field that you have to take care of people. So you can't treat them like numbers. And one of my friends, Mario, who's a med school student, he told me that one of the big issues that the field runs into is doctors begin to treat their patients like numbers because they go through so many of them in a day. I mean, it's such a stressful job that sometimes they forget about, why they're there for, that they're actually taking care of people, and they can't be just, tossed through the line in that kind of sense.
Exactly. Because it's, and you might laugh at this because this is going to be wisdom that was instilled in me by an Uber driver.
Uber drivers are dope, dude.
Yeah. So basically we got to talking about, sometimes you have people who are really, really, really good academically. So you could have somebody that goes to Harvard, but they have none of these soft skills that you're talking about. And the quotable that he gave me that I took away from that whole conversation is, you could be the smartest person in the world, but if you don't know how to treat or talk to people, you're about as useless as a fart in a spacesuit. and that's something like I've never heard before, but it's something that's so true. Because, like you said, as a doctor, you're responsible for, everything from telling a 40 or 50-year-old woman that she has terminal cancer to turning around and doing the same thing to a child, if you would even do that. There's certain nuances to it that you have to, that can only be carried out and, properly executed through having a developed well of soft skills, like you were saying. Much. Yeah.
I mean, some of the best people I worked with, I mean, they're obviously like a lot of people in my field. They're not really, your ideal citizens, but I mean, they have charisma, they have street smarts, and that's why people like working with them. I mean, that's the whole industry I got to deal with, dude. So we were talking about this before the episode that you said that you're doing something that's completely unrelated to your degree, in a sense. So you mind going over that a little bit?
Yeah. So basically, I work in the recruiting field, and my major was marketing. So they, in an obscure way, kind of go hand in hand. I mean, obviously, you're getting out there and you're saying good things about the institution that you're recruiting for, and things like that. But really, when you kind of look at it, there's so many instances, and I'm not saying that mine's the worst one, trust me. I'm saying that there are plenty of people who are in my office who majored in things like psychology and stuff like that, which I guess everything kind of has a little bit of something to do with some type of job, but I didn't go to school for this. This is not like where my career path I thought where it was going to go when I walked across the stage and got my diploma.
So where did you think you wanted to end up?
Where I wanted to end up was, if I could just draw it up perfectly, it'd be in Austin, Texas, working in either a place like Austin or Atlanta or Dallas, someplace with similar vibes, really big on growth and opportunity and things like that, and working in more of an advertisement agency and helping create ads and content and things like that, rather than necessarily where I am now. And that's not to knock on the current job that I have. I don't want anybody who hears this to come across like, oh, that guy's just bitter and doesn't like his life. That's just one thing. And I'm not sure where kids are who are listening to this. So I'm not there could be a 16-year-old listening to this as well as a kid that's our age, 22 and 23. But it pays to really educate yourself and know what you're doing before you go into college.
It pays to there's a big thing going on now where a lot of college students, or at least a lot of the ones I know, they don't only just go to school. I mean, they got a full, either a part-time job or a full-time job and like 3 other side hustles. Yeah, because I just feel like because I was told that you need to focus on school, but the reality is, while you do need to pay attention at school, right? Mm-hmm. College, you have the most free time that you've ever had for most of us. You basically have the most free time that you've ever had in your life.
Absolutely.
Because in high school, it was basically you had to go from 7:30 in the morning to 3, and that was just such a structured thing. And if you had extracurriculars, you'd go to like 6 or 7 kind of deal. But now you're basically your own person. So what I see a lot of people doing is, they'll do their schoolwork or they'll be in class, or even while they're in class, they'll be like selling Jordans. you know what I mean?
You got to do what you got to do, man.
I feel like, I feel like just in school in general things like marketing it's less about the schoolwork and it's more about you building yourself and you figuring out things on your own, which makes it sound like, going to school for that is kind of useless, because nowadays the narrative is school is not really, all what it's built up to be anymore, because, you have things like the internet where you can get this information. And not saying that obviously you can't be a surgeon by just going to YouTube. You obviously need to go to school. That's a rigorous career, like engineering. But in the programming world, for example, most people, they just go to programming or coding boot camps. Some of them don't even go to school. They just sit in their mom's basement and just practice, get their certifications, and boom, they have a job. I got a friend who's working he's working as a back-end software developer. And here's the funny thing. He went to school for psychology. He worked in live sound for 10 years. He got tired of it, and now he's working as a coder. So,
that's just how it goes.
That's just life.
it really is. And I actually had the same exact conversation, I want to say 4 days ago, in a hot tub on the back of a cruise boat, which it was my first cruise. So.
God damn, you have a good life, dude.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain.
Who paid for that? Your job paid for that?
I paid for it myself.
Yeah, your job paid for it.
I saved up as much money as I could. But basically what me and my best friend were talking about is it's crazy that, and this draws right back, we're going full circle to the whole high school bubble experience. We're kind of taught in high school, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to make the grade, right? It doesn't matter about how your relationship with your professors is necessarily and things like that. You're taught to make the grade, and that's really all there is to it. When you get to college, one thing that we found ourselves obsessed with was, hey, this summer I can just, take the summer off and just get a job. There's no need for an internship, because provided that I have a high enough GPA when I graduate, I should be fine, which is one of the most ignorant statements that, or one of the most ignorant things that I've ever thought in my lifetime. But, instead of doing those things, those extracurriculars, like you were talking about, building yourself up as a person, building as many relationships as you can.
And finding different ways to make money.
Yeah, exactly. I am so sure, I graduated with a 3.2. I am so sure that there's a student out there who graduated with a 2.5 who is probably making a lot more money than me.
Funny about that. My godfather in Huntsville.
Yeah.
He barely skimmed through engineering school. Where he went, all he needed to do was keep above a 2.0 to stay in engineering school.
Yeah.
And he skimmed by with a 2.04. And you know where he's working now?
Where?
He's working at NASA.
So that's one of those things I'm talking about.
Because I don't know. It's weird because he didn't have any connections. He came to this country barely speaking English, barely skimming by school, and now he's working at NASA, making more than, I don't know what he's making, but I've been to his house a few times, and he definitely makes he's pretty all right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if NASA people can be broke. Yeah. I'm sure they can, but
I don't even think the janitors are broke, dude.
Yeah, they probably make buku money.
They probably make as much as like civil engineers starting off. Let's be real.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that they gotta do.
And actually, one of my friends, I feel like I'm cutting you off, but let me go on this rant.
No, you're not.
I feel like I heard one of my friends told me that he's gonna finish his civil engineering degree, and you know what he's gonna do? He's gonna go build a franchise in Domino's instead. Because what he told me is what he wanted the most out of his life is he wanted freedom.
Makes sense.
He wanted his own freedom to do whatever. He says, I know it's going to be, food service sucks in general. And he says he knows it's going to be shitty for about 5 years, but he's looking for freedom. He's looking to, be his own boss. And a lot of people throw that around. A lot of people like to throw around, I'm an entrepreneur or I'm my own boss, but that's hard because now you got to motivate yourself to do everything. Your boss is not telling you you're going to get fired kind of deal. It's you.
You crap the bed. You crap the bed, and there's nobody can do anything for you at that point. And I don't think people understand how precious freedom is until there are restrictions put on it.
Exactly.
Like everything from being able to, like you said, being your own boss and being your own man. It's like, oh well, gosh, I've never been to, what's a place that'd be fun to visit? Germany, I guess. I hear people like it over there, and it's nice. But like, if you were like, hey, I wanna go to Germany, you can get up and do that. Provided that you have things squared away at your job, obviously. Provided that you're at your business, but you could get up and just go somewhere. Like somebody that's in my position right now, for a trip to Germany to be worth it, the amount of vacation time that I would have to take, wouldn't it just basically would not be possible. Like 4 or 5 days at most you can get away with. But you're talking about if you were to go to Germany with the flight that it'd take over there and everything like that and getting acquainted and having fun, all that good stuff, you can't do that in 4 or 5 days.
I mean, shit, I went to Vietnam 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
And me just being there a week, that wasn't enough time.
Yeah.
That wasn't.
Yeah.
I felt like I barely scratched the surface like 5 days in.
Exactly.
Because that was the first time I've ever been, out bumfuck nowhere, right? How many Vietnamese people do you see every square mile? They're all gathered at the nail salon. Cool.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? Yeah. yeah, I definitely want to socialize with people at a nail salon. But,
oh, man.
That was, I don't know. I mean, during that time, it made me realize a lot of things about my life. And I'm glad I went because that was such a life-changing experience. But going back to it, I think people being your own boss and just having freedom, you're right. People don't appreciate it until they don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad always said, most people in this country don't really understand what freedom is because during the war, he lost a lot of friends, During the Vietnam War, he lost a lot of friends to Viet Cong. I mean, the other day, I saw him all teary-eyed because he said one of his friends from his Boy Scout troops, one of his best friends, he knew he died in 1973, but they could never find his grave because, after the war ended, when America got out, the Viet Cong kind of just came in and like desecrated all the graves.
Yeah.
But years later, someone or organization was dedicated to finding the graves and rebuilding them. And, one of my dad's friends in Vietnam, he sent him a picture of his friend's grave, which was thought to be destroyed. And just to put in perspective, I guess my dad said something along the lines of, he didn't say freedom's not free. I don't know, but he said something along the lines of, your generation is so lucky. Your generation will never understand what the true price of freedom and that kind of deal.
Because we're so far removed from things that
we live in a good
on that.
I mean, we live in a good time. Think about it. Yeah. Everyone stop bitching about politics, I'm like, what? I'm going to be real here. I might piss people off, but whether it was George Bush, Obama, or Trump in office, my life stayed the same. Personally, for me, they're not going to change my life. Well, I'll take it back. Obama did raise my health insurance premium, but, we're past that.
Yeah,
but,
it's water under the bridge, I guess.
It is water under the bridge.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, not everything is honky-dory, but that's just kind of like, ever since that mistake with the apple, that's just kind of how things have been.
I mean, but at the same time, people need to realize, like, what the fuck are you going to do about it,
So, and that leads me to something that is actually really, 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 really kind of important and cool that I got to talk about with one of my coworkers. Olu, he's from Nigeria.
That's cool.
Yeah, Nigeria, I believe. And so basically one thing he kind of educated me to look into is individualism. And so I go home and I research and things like that, and I'm looking it up, and it's crazy how, the opposite of individualism is, that kind of, collectivism. or whatever.
I think it's collectivism.
Yeah. So once again, you said you don't fact check on the show, so I feel fine. So
let me do it right now. Continue.
Okay. Yeah. But basically, the deal is when you look at individualism, let's use this as an example. You look on the other side of this window, you see a yard. Say you have 5 people line up on one side, and you tie a weight of 50 pounds to each and every one of them, right?
Right.
Are they going to make it farther quicker by each pulling their own weight? Or are they going to make it farther quicker by having 2 or 3 people carry all the weight of those 5?
Elaborate on that.
Okay, so I was hoping you wouldn't. I was hoping that would just be the perfect example, and I wouldn't have to like expose myself. But basically, the idea of individualism is kind of like breaking apart. Obviously, being yourself, having your own goals, your own drives and motivations, and not kind of being part of a think tank or getting lost and locked in things like echo chambers and stuff like that. Like you're your own person essentially. So you're not thinking, with the hive or things like that. Say if me being black, I love, rock music. I love everything from Fleetwood Mac to Tame Impala and things like that. And that's where some of our individualism might shine through. It can shine through in everything from your taste of food, your preference, and, who you decide to love and live your life with, things like that, all the way to your preferences and fashion sense, stuff like that, even the music and in the arts. And so with individualism, the reason why that is such a crucial deal is if somebody tells me that, hey, listen up, and I'm trying to think about how to say this without being offensive.
Dude, it's okay, man.
Okay, but say if somebody was looking at me and said like a whole, like basically who you belong to, your socioeconomic group, y'all are supposed to be poor for forever. Like no matter what you do, you're never gonna succeed. You're never gonna go on to be anything. That's just that. Deal with it. If you accept that as a person because you feel that as that big generalization or that big generalization stroke with that paintbrush that painted you the same as all these other people, if you believe that, then you're stuck. Not stuck there, but you might be inclined to think that that's all you can be, is what you were told that your group of people would be, right?
Right.
And history shows us time and time again that there are plenty of people who are like, yo, that's cool. I'm glad that they happen to think that, but I know that I believe in myself. I know that, and my dad kind of broke it down to me like, somebody has to.
Oh, my dad's about to walk in really quick.
Okay. Hello, BJ. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, he's called BJ, by the way, guys. He's called BJ, by the way.
I was gonna give him a hug. I'll have to hug him afterwards. Yeah. But basically, somebody out there's got to win the lottery, right?
Right.
So what's stopping that somebody from being you?
Now, do you think people you said they kind of go into this hive mind, or they're all, we like to call it mob mentality. I like to call it mob mentality. You think that comes from? Do you think that stems from people not wanting to be alone? Because humans are very social animals, right? We find safety in numbers. And not a lot of people can. The hardest thing to do, one of the hardest things that I had to learn was learning to be happy when it's just you in the room. Learning to live with yourself.
Yes.
Because that's really hard because no one's giving you compliments.
No.
So do you think that's sort of high? Do you think the reason people sort of think the same way, or kind of like they associate themselves with a group or a culture, is because obviously they don't want to be alone?
There's that sense of belonging that I feel that everybody has to have. Even us who, and we'll get to this in a second, who view ourselves as outcasts and the underdogs. There's a deep little mustard seed worth that we want to belong, and we. As much as we say until we're red in the face, like, oh, no, I don't need people, that we do, in fact, need people. Like you said, we're social creatures. It's just who we are. But I feel like that has something to do with it. And then on top of that, the fact that at least in this day and age, it's so easy to be kind of told what to think. rather than having to go off and form your own opinions and get to know who you are.
And where do you think that comes from?
Where do I think that comes from? I think it
comes from high school. People are quick to say media, right? Because media says people say oh, the social media makes people worse. No, social media just showed the whole world who you are.
Yeah.
Whether you had social media, there's a great example. So whether you have social media or not, if you had radio, so if there's a football game going on the radio, people would still scream at the radio. They couldn't do anything to change it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it was TV, people yell at the TV.
Yeah.
So when you see things like Facebook and Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's the same thing. They're just yelling into, I guess, a punching bag in a way.
Yeah, and it helps that echo chamber that they can be a part of. It's like, here are a bunch of people who agree with one sliver or section of something that I believe in or that I agree with, and now they adopt the whole understanding and the whole I don't want to say mantra. What's the word I'm looking for? The whole creed. Sure, why not? Of the people that they've kind of jumped in with. And the quicker that people realize that, hey, we agree on some things, but just because I agree on one thing with you we might both like music, but trust me, I know that some of the artists that I listen to, you're going to be like, dude, that's crap. Don't ever, play that on the stereo again. And I might say the same thing back to you, but, it's like, oh, he likes music. I like music. We're best friends. We're going to agree on anything and everything. And obviously that doesn't work. So that has a big deal of, at least like I said, these are my truths. And these are what I understand as being what causes things.
I'm pretty sure this is given. You don't have to worry about offending anyone, dude.
Yeah.
They can get over it.
but yeah, so I think that has a big deal to do with it. The sense of belonging, and then the fact that it's a lot easier to not have to think 100% for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Because one thing I did when I took an online class my freshman year, one argument people like to use was the top 1%. So I know this is getting a little political, but let's hear me out.
Okay.
So when people say top 1%, they're thinking of the people who are raking in above 50 million. Let's just throw a number. No. The top 1% in the United States, you know what they have to make to be the top, quote unquote, 1%?
What?
$320K. And if you think about it, that's like your normal doctor. Let me fact check myself, but I know it's around that area.
Yeah.
It's not astronomically high. It's not like these people are diving in oceans of pennies or anything. It's it's your normal neurosurgeon. I say normal, very.
To me.
Now, last I heard, the top 5% of the world was, what you had to make?
What?
32,000.
I'm the top 5% of the world. I control things.
So going back to the whole mob mentality deal, right? So when people like to go after rich people and get mad at them, right? What that kind of hive mindset robs them of, it robs them of perspective and gratitude. Yes. Because let's use that same argument, right? Yeah. I know some fucking psychologist or some PhD psychology student's going to call me out on this, but hear me out. So a lot of people like to say the top 1% need to give back and give more. So what if I flip that argument on a global scale? What if I said, hey, the top 1% of the world needs to go help this starving child in the Congo or help this kid in Vietnam go to school? Well, do you think people would do that?
I think they would say, hey, I pressed the $5 donation button at Walmart when I was checking out for my groceries, so I've done my part.
So, I mean, I find that very interesting because with that argument, right, it's when you're in a mob mentality, you lose any kind of ability to rationalize or, hey, let me look further into this to see if I really disagree with it, or coming up. Feel free to have your own opinions, right? But at least be able to back it up in a way. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm friends with a lot of people who are, who who are Democrats. I mean, I'm pretty, I'm like the most left-leaning conservative you'll ever meet. But I mean, my friends know how to defend their point of view.
Yeah.
They don't just repeat what everyone else is saying because that's just fucking stupid.
Yeah, agree to disagree and have your own truths, your own belief systems. And just because that they might be different, that doesn't mean that we can't get along. I have a friend that's literally like, being a Christian man that I am, and I'm not saying that I'm the most devout that there's ever been in the world. Obviously we're all working on things, but I have friends that are agnostic. I have friends that are atheists. One of my really close friends that, enlisted in the military, I got to know him for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and we were like close. He was agnostic. And the thing is like, well, obviously, I mean, you would like to have people who 100% agree with you, I guess. And that's even a stretch because if I met somebody who was just like me, 100% of the way, we'd probably eventually end up killing each other because it's like there can only be one. But you kind of feel what I'm saying on that? It's like,
yeah,
we can agree to disagree. We can be friends and understand that we don't see everything the same way, and that's okay. That's not going to happen.
There are actually some people who, and this might be true, that, remember at the beginning of this episode I said people are very goal-driven?
Yes.
So there's a little engine inside you that something feels wrong when there's no conflict. That there's a part of you that just wants a problem to happen. So I always like to go back to the election, right? Despite on who you believe in or who won, I don't give a shit. They never made a difference in my life. But think about how good life was in 2016. What problems were we having in 2016, right? I mean, I know there's a couple. There's a lot of obviously police brutalities.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of outside of that, right?
Right.
What was really bad in 2016? And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking down on the Black Lives Matter movement. I think that's very important.
You're not being dismissive of it, but it's like 2016 was just another year for me. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it was the same as 2005, which was a bomb year because, everything from like cartoons were better to NCAA football still existed on, Xbox and stuff like that. But there obviously has been change in the world. Big changes, and I want to say a huge thing that has to do with that is the news cycle that we have nowadays, which, my dad said the news back when he was a kid, like, 10 or 11, would only be on for a couple hours a day. But now you can literally sit down and watch whatever news outlet of your choice for 24 hours. And so that means you get every type of update, every little thing that's going on in the world.
Right, but before you continue, let me cut you off again.
No, go ahead.
What was wrong in 2016?
That's my thing. I mean, if we're removing, I'm not gonna say 2016 was a perfect year, but for me, James Michael Barlow, it was not a bad year at all.
It wasn't. Was there a mass like starvation, water shortage, were people running around shooting? Well, yeah,
people are always running around shooting each other.
But the point of what I'm trying to say, right, was for the most part, life was pretty damn good in 2016. You probably still had a house. You could sleep on a bed.
Yep.
You had water to drink. You could use like 50 gallons, take a shower if you wanted to.
And
I mean, that's what I'm trying to say is humans, since we're so very goal-oriented and survival-oriented, that when we see something like a problem, or I'm not even going to call it a problem, when we see something that we think might be a problem, people jump on that shit like big booty, man. And this also goes back to the whole my mentality, because everyone's getting worked up over some bullshit. Everyone's going to believe everything that's being said just because to them, it feels good to be bad. Makes them feel alive. Makes them feel like they have something to fight for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then it kind of feels like sometimes people aren't doing it for the right reasons anymore.
Right.
Rather than to, actually be helping for a cause. It seems like, and this is not everybody in the world, but it feels like there's a chunk of people who just do it to be seen. There's a chunk of people who just do it because it's like, man, I had a great day at work today. Everything went right. I came home, my wife was there, my kids were there, everything is going great. This sucks. What can I find to really, kind of like turn the tide and just to feel different? Because there was no resistance today. Things were too easy. Like what can I really just sink my teeth into?
What kind of shit could I start up?
Yeah, exactly. And I do the same thing. It's like I'll be chilling downstairs with my little brother and we'll be having a great time, but one of us has to come up with something to fight about just because it's like we're bored.
I found myself doing that a lot. That's why I would play a lot of competitive games.
Of course.
I'd be making, my job. I enjoy my job. I make decent money. Go home, I'm very satisfied with work. I'll just hop on a competitive game and just scream at it. Yeah. Not because I'm angry or hateful, because I did just like, to me, that's like I gotta get out of me. That's like me going to the gym after like a 12-hour workday for some reason. Like I gotta get something out of me.
Yeah.
Like I recently gotten back to the powerlifting. Hey. That's the best thing. I think it's been one of the best decisions I've done in my life in a long time, dude. Because it just feels good to just, it sounds fucked up, but it feels good to, work for something and suffer. And you think you would feel like tired after the gym, right? No, I feel great.
Endorphins, man.
I feel great, dude. Like what I would do is, normal powerlifting sets, whether it's like bench, deadlift, or squats or cleans. And then after the workout, I go upstairs and do like, a few rounds of boxing on the bag, and that got everything out of me.
And you walk away feeling incredible. And you get some good sleep later on that.
And the thing about it is I'm not taking it out on anyone.
No, you're taking it out on a bag that I'm pretty sure doesn't have a home to go home to. He doesn't have kids. He has no responsibilities. He's not a sentient punching bag, so that's literally his purpose is to be hit.
Speaking of sentient, man, did you hear? There was I think it was a joke, but there was a report that came up that saying plants know that they're being eaten, and everyone's like, "Oh, vegans got to stop eating plants now. They're sentient beings."
That would suck. I mean, I feel incredibly horrible for.
They taste good.
Yeah,
plants are good for you.
They are. And I feel like at a certain point, once our body does what it has to do, they are back alive and helping this earth.
Or they're sitting in the sewers somewhere, waiting to be processed.
Yeah, I worked in the sewage treatment plant, man. And that's a lot of fun. I forgot where we send the actual stuff to.
Did you have to be there at 5 a.m. or wake up at 5?
So I had to wake up at 4:30 and be in the plant at 5:30. Right. Yeah. And so that was actually one of the best jobs I ever had, and I loved it.
Nice.
I loved it.
Did you like the people, or what did you like about it?
So first of all, the people I worked with were dope. Like I'm talking about, one of the crazy things is your manager or your plant manager or whatever the hierarchy was, you had people who were working in it and doing the hard stuff with you. And that's a cool thing about sometimes seeing leadership is when you can't really see the ceilings that come with like the level of hierarchy that there might be in employment. So me, literally a summer help person, was working in the trenches, helping rebuild a sand filtration pit with people who were salaried there to people who were managers and own the plant and do things obviously like they might be on a first name basis with the mayor of the city and things like that. So that was really cool. And then it was never really the same thing every day. One day I might be working on sand filtration pits. The other day we're laying brand new line for the city. So there's a lot of stuff. And then we were even working City Fest. So I mean,
That's cool.
Yeah, we covered all the bases.
I think that sort of brotherhood that you talked about, that everyone was there putting in their best.
Yeah.
I think that's a kind of brotherhood that people find in the military too. That's why a lot of people, if we go back to the bubble thing, I'm not dismissing the military as like as simple as a high school bubble. I'm trying to make a fucking comparison, so hear me out. So it's like in the military, right? When you're deployed, you're all in the shits, man. You're all there together. It's not your manager's going to sit in the back when y'all are getting shot at by RPGs. You're like, all right, you guys handle it. I got to go do a report real quick. I know we're getting shot at.
I gotta go pull some numbers.
No, you're all kind of there. And
you're just dealing with it together.
You're dealing with it together.
It sucks for everybody.
It does. And that's what I like a lot about stagehand work too. It's not as dangerous. It's nowhere near as dangerous as getting shot at, but everyone's there in the shit. Nobody wants to be there at 1 a.m, like breaking down a stack and loading up 8 trucks. But we all got to do it, from your salaried folks to your overhires to like the random guy that needed some work. I mean, you're all in the shits together.
Yeah. And there's a beautiful thing about that.
There's something good about it. And I think that's why a lot of people like fraternities and sororities, because they kind of see it that way too. They're all in the shits together.
Yeah,
they're all suffering through organic chemistry or calculus 2.
Yes.
Or thermodynamics. They're in the shits together.
There's necessities to certain things that we've, addressed thus far. Like having those friends in high school. And it does not matter who you are, unless you're the rare outlier who just literally did not talk to anybody, and there's some people like that. But I know that our jazz combo, for the most part, we were really, really tight, because the thing was like we were all spending time after school practicing and rehearsing music. We were all spending time after school getting things together and writing music at Eric's house. And we were all so happy to realize that we won best combo when we got to Loyola, because we put in the work. And there was some fun along the way, but we were all sacrificing for the most part the same amount of time.
Yes, sir. But that was then. This is now.
This is now.
There was some good times, but
absolutely,
yeah,
we have great times ahead of us.
Man, what else? What we got? Oh, you pulled up. You were talking about how the news cycle used to be a few hours, but now it's it's basically around the clock.
7, 365.
So now you might be wondering, why is the news just so dramatic these days? Everything's like gone completely balls to the walls, right? But the old financial model is dying. That's why. So what do they have to do, right? They have to basically resort to clickbait.
You got to get as many people as hyped up about something as you can.
I mean, it could be as something stupid as like Trump said hello to Putin. Like, let's just say that. It could be something as ridiculous as that. And then people are going to be like, oh shit, Trump said hello to Putin. Yeah. Motherfucker, we knew he rigged the election,
It's or it'd be like, it's like, now I'm mad. And do you know how many ads I've clicked on where it's something like with this Ariana Grande and Kanye and Pete Davidson thing.
Oh, God.
I dedicated a solid 30 minutes to my Snapchat feed just reading through the stories about it. And it's like, if I didn't have Snapchat, I probably would have never known that any of that had happened. And I definitely wouldn't have felt passionately about anything either way. Like, because I wouldn't have known about it. But now it's like, dude, let's get this and it's funny because whether it doesn't matter which outlet you're watching, they all pitch it in different ways because they have to. Like that's right. Business. You have to get more people watching. You have to get more people affiliated with your associates and things like that. That's just how it goes.
Let's talk about Carlson Tucker, right, on Fox. Really, here's the crazy thing, because he's locked into that network, right? Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure he does not agree with at least 40% of the shit he's saying. Why does he have to say it, right? Because it's his job.
Yeah.
And that goes back to freedom.
Yeah.
You're making cheese, right? But you don't have the freedom to say what you want. So the reason why these news outlets are going balls to the walls and everything's just so extreme and mainstream, it's because they have to. It's because, well, when YouTube came around, look up how many podcasts are on YouTube.
Too many.
I mean, and they're not. And let's talk about the Joe Rogan podcast, right?
Yes.
I mean,
I love that guy.
Yeah, I love that show, dude. Or like the Joe Budden podcast. who's controlling them to say anything? Them.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Joe Rogan said on one podcast, he said, I don't think we had a meeting once. I think one meeting we had was, he said, me and Jamie, we just smoked a bowl of weed. We just said, we should do this. Yeah, that's cool. You know? It's how can an established institution like, CNN, Fox, or like Warner Brothers, well, no, I don't even know. No, fuck, Warner Brothers doesn't do that, but you get what I'm saying.
TBS.
How do they compete with something like that? It's authenticity. You cannot compete with that.
You can't, because there's a line that cannot be crossed when it comes to the fact that somebody else is handling your paycheck. And I'm going to ask to go to the restroom real quick. So I will.
All right, we'll take a quick break. I actually got to charge my phone really quick.
All right.
We'll be back, folks. All right, and we're back. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, and whatever you identify as.
I had to use the bathroom, so I'm not going to apologize for that. That's something that had to happen.
It's called what do they say? Nature calls.
Yeah, duty calls. But like, kind of where we were leaving off at, and this was, I kind of believe, the last point that I thought of as I was running to the restroom, when you were saying that some people, depending on who they work for, have to say certain things to push a certain agenda. And I don't want to use agenda as in terms of like the Illuminati, like, oh, they're pushing this, like this has to happen. Like, there was a story, and I can't remember the woman's name, but this is going to ring bells, and it might ring bells to you. But there was a chick, she was working for a news outlet. I don't remember all the details, but I do know that she was sick and tired of talking about all the gruesome things that were going on in the world. So she literally got on the newscast. And they thought that they thought she was doing research for suicide prevention, but since she was so sick and tired of talking about all this gruesome stuff, and they wouldn't let her really discuss anything else, she got on the newscast on live television. You can look up the video if you want to see it, but she literally pulls out a gun and shoots herself behind her ear and kills herself on television, or attempts to kill herself on television.
Attempts?
But
she pulled out a gun and stuck it to her ear.
Yeah, and shot herself. But she didn't die right away.
So she did kill herself.
Yeah, in a way.
Oh man,
just not right there. But you can see the video, like it's
on live TV too.
Yeah, it's messed up. It's in black and white, and so but I mean, you can still see her. She says what she has to say, puts the gun up to her ear. You hear the bang, and then you just see her body drop.
Was this like, do you remember if it was, well, since it was black and white, it was probably pre-Vietnam era, because I know during the Vietnam era, right? The Vietnam era was, the war was on TV every day, and that was like the first time where something as gruesome as that would be put on national television. Yeah. I mean, families were sitting around the TV watching it. I mean, it'd be your 5-year-old daughter and like your first grader son just sitting there watching people shoot each other up in the jungles.
It's like everybody's watching a good old-fashioned game of Call of Duty. So her name was Christine Chubbuck.
Chubbuck.
Yes, Christine Chubbuck. And it was in 1974.
Wow. So this was during the Vietnam era. Wow.
So yeah, she was tired of talking about all the gruesome things that were going on, and that's how she chose to deal with it.
It must have been more that she must have been going through depression. Depression's such a big thing nowadays.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, if you're constantly having this shoved in your face, and you're constantly having to talk about it, and like, think about it. Like, from an audience perspective, we don't have to be as knowledgeable about it as she does. Because she has to look through and read all the details about the particular story she's going to talk about. And then she has to even decide which is more relevant. Like, she's really intimate with this knowledge.
Man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Just knowing so much that you're so disgusted and you just don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
That's a very scary thought.
It is. And the thought, and you're going to like what I do here, that thought really is difficult to deal with alone. Kind of being separate from the rest of your peers, almost. Like, and I can only imagine how hard it must have been for her, because you're working for a news station that has to push this. and this is your job, this is your livelihood, and you don't even have control of it. And I can only imagine how much it was spinning for her, and how long and how tough things must have been, because it's not like she kept it to herself. She even vocalized that this is not okay. This is not what I want to be a part of. And there was nothing she could do. I mean, there was nothing that they would do to accommodate her. Yeah.
That's why I think it's really important to learn how to be happy with yourself and find a way to figure out some inner peace.
Yes. Yes, that is.
Because there are 5 things you need that are important, right? Or it might be 4. Let me just say 5. It's like food, water, clothes, shelter. And what's the 5th thing? You need other people. If you do not have one of these things, people will go crazy. If you are starving, you will go crazy. If you don't have a house and you're homeless, you might be a little crazy. If you don't have clothes in this society, yeah, you'll be a little crazy. You kind of see what I'm saying? So these are kind of like the 5 foundations you need to have a relatively kind of healthy life, I guess. To have a
shot at one.
To have a shot at a relatively happy life.
Yeah.
So when you're missing one of these things, it'll just really fuck with you mentally. Yeah. I went through it a little bit after, my first month in New York. It was really an interesting time because it was just me up there. I mean, I had the people I worked with and artists that would come in, but just this guy from the middle of nowhere in Alabama going up to, the big city where it's a big culture shock. And I wouldn't say I was like depressed or sad, but I was just kind of in shock and awe of how much of a shift happened within 3 months. And I think I learned more about myself just me being there than I ever did, being in a normal environment. I figured out who I really was and what I had to do and what I was capable of and what my limits were. So.
And I'm not going to say jealous. I hope to have that opportunity one day. Because that's really why I feel that's a huge reason as to why we're here. And I definitely want to ask you, what were some things, what surprised you the most that you learned about yourself?
What I learned about myself?
Yeah.
What I learned about myself while I was up there was how incapable I was with dealing with failure. Because me, right, I always like, this has got to be right. Yeah. I'm just not perfectionist, but me, it's like I always held myself up to a standard where if I don't get this and this, that means I'm doing something wrong or I failed. Kind of deal. So it's like the Asian mentality, but it was, outside of academia, and it was like really hardcore. I was always hard on myself, right? I was thinking, yeah, I could do better. Yeah, I could do better. Or I was too black and white with myself, saying if I don't make it here, it's because I suck, and I gotta do something else. Yeah. So that's something I learned about myself when I was up there is how bad I was at dealing with failure or rejection, which is ironic is because those things were the ones that kind of pushed me to go nuts to try to make it up there in the first place. But I think, besides, all your technical engineering stuff, I don't want to go into that here. I do it for work and I'm tired of talking about it. But the greatest lesson I learned while I was up there was giving yourself time and being patient with yourself and accepting the fact that not every nosedive into the concrete is necessarily a failure. It depends on if you put your foot forward after that. Yeah. That's all it is. Yeah. Because, while I was up there, I was barely breaking even. Like, I loved what I was doing up there. I loved the people I was around. It goes back to the whole camaraderie thing. Like, we were all in the shits. Whether you were the studio manager, the engineer, or, like, the intern, or, like, the janitor. Yeah, we were all in the shits. Like, sure, we were all doing different things, but we were all there from I think it was 7 at night to like 9:30 in the morning.
Jeez.
We were all in the shits together.
Those are some hours, man. Do you think that kind of leads into what we discussed before the show about kind of that burning out and you really kind of you put your nose to the grindstone till there wasn't much of you left, and then you kind of had to relaunch and rebuild.
Yeah. When I got back to Alabama, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I fell into depression. I kind of fell into a slump, right, where I had to reevaluate how I was going to go about doing what I wanted to do, and I actually figure out what I wanted to do. I asked myself, why did I really want to do this? Was it because I really wanted to be an audio engineer, or did I just enjoy the pursuit of something unreasonable? Or was I doing it to spite people? And what I figured out about myself was it was probably 20% the level of audio engineering.
Yeah.
40%, no, I'd say 50% of me trying to spite people, which that's stupid. and 30% of me just enjoying pursuing something that's completely unusual. And that's how I figured out, that's how I learned about myself a bit. And I changed that. You can't live a life just being spiteful and hateful and just going for revenge. So I just decided to tap into the whole, my love of this career and love of pursuing something completely different outside the box, because that's the way I always felt myself to be. I was always that guy out the box. I felt like I was always that guy in the basement trying to rebuild a toaster into a microwave, at 2 a.m. for no reason. You know what I mean? Or, but I tapped into that, the whole idea of doing things outside the box, even more after New York. I mean, when I got back, I decided to throw a lot of money into real estate with my uncle, and try to figure out a way to make passive income or build up real wealth, right? Or do stuff like this podcast, or only do mixing services on the side and all these here and there jobs. And that's why I find myself really happy. It's the fact that I'm doing something so different. It's not necessarily better than or more stable than, your normal job. You obviously don't get benefits, but it's the idea of getting to do something different and being satisfied with your work. Because at the end of the day, that's all you. That's on you. And that's the way I saw New York. When I wasn't able to stay up there, I didn't blame anyone. I didn't blame the studio. It wasn't the other people's fault. It's never the other people's fault. The way I saw it was, this is me. This is my choice. I'm a ride or die with it. It turns out up there, it kind of died. So that's also another reason why I only do mixing stuff part-time now. It's because I never want to lose that feeling of excitement I have for this job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm kind of like an adrenaline junkie. I'm like that guy who would jump off a cliff with a bungee cord, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So you kind of see.
Yeah.
So that's, out of all the cool experiences, the cool people I met, and the crazy stories I had up there, I think that was the most valuable thing to me, was really figuring out who I was. Granted, it was an expensive lesson, and I think people can figure themselves out in a lot smarter way, but that's what I got out of New York.
But that was necessary for you. That was a tailored experience for you.
It's kind of like when monks go up to the mountains to meditate.
Yeah.
Me, I just dove straight headfirst into a city.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a beautiful thing. That's how you learn the most about yourself. I'm reading this book about top performance or whatever. You can laugh at me if you want, but you can tell the most about a person not by watching them for a couple of months in average situations. You can learn the most about who a person is and what their heart is made of by watching them for about 5 to 7 minutes in a high stress situation.
Elaborate on that. That's interesting.
Okay.
So what you're before you go, what you're basically saying is the most you figure out a person is basically when they're at their lowest point.
Yeah, because that's literally who you are.
Because now you're testing their character.
Yeah, because when things are going well, I can put on this wonderful facade and fake that I'm happy, fake that I'm cool, fake that I'm not under pressure. There's a lot of stuff you can kind of get by on when things are good. But if it's a high stress situation, the person can either react or they can respond. A lot of us, believe it or not, me being one of them, react to a situation. So you'll see exactly who I am, who I'm made of, or, what I'm made of, and, all that jazz, just by the way I react to something. Now, there's some people out there who have the innate ability to respond. Like, say they get fired from their job. All right. They can either react and do something like go out and get hammered and freak out and have the whole woe is me attitude, or they can respond by still probably going out, having a couple of drinks, having fun. And then literally that Monday, the next Monday comes around, they're out applying for jobs. They're like, hey, this is my response to this. I lost my job. I choose to respond by, having a little fun, cutting loose, and then putting my nose right back to the grindstone. When danger happens is when we react to things. And that's kind of where you get to see what, a person's really made of, whether they react to a certain situation or whether they respond to a certain situation, and how they do either or.
So is it possible that react and response, kind of that whole sense, is it, how do you really distinguish between the two? Obviously one is a negative and one's a positive, but in a more clear-cut way, what is exactly, how do you define the difference between react and response? Because there's basically the same things. Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that these are my own words, because once again, it comes from the book that I'm reading.
How about you plug that book right now?
It's like Top Performance by Zig Ziglar or something like that.
By the way, this show is not sponsored by him. It's just me.
Yeah. So he was saying, okay, and this was such a wonderful analogy, and it, it's like it hits you and then it grows on you. At first you're like, okay, that was cool. And then it's like, dang, okay, that really makes sense. So say a doctor is sitting you down, and this is for the whole reaction respond thing.
Okay.
The doctor sits you down and says, your body's having a reaction to the medicine. How do you feel? How do you feel? Like this, like just.
What kind of reaction?
Role play. Just say.
Does it make my dick bigger?
Just say that your body is reacting to the medicine. Would you rather hear that your body's reacting to the medicine, or would you rather hear that your body's responding to the medicine?
Respond because it's a more deep, smooth tone, if that makes sense.
You see how I'm moving my hands over here, right? So you have the reaction, which is, I want to say that's more of after the fact. And I might be digging myself a hole in which I can't get out, but we'll see how this goes. So you can react to somebody, like somebody yells at you or cuts you off in traffic or calls you a horrible name, something very degrading. You can either react to that person and call them one back, give them what they're giving you, or you can respond to that person by taking time, taking that deep breath, even though it might only last for a second, evaluating.
What if your response is violence? What if you decide
that is a reaction, man?
What if your response? What if your response is like, I'm gonna get my big V8 diesel truck and just run this fucking Civic over?
Well, if
that's a response technically, right?
If that was your objective decision. Wait,
because you're saying it's a response because you control it, and reaction is like the knee-jerk reaction.
Yes. So response. Thank you for.
So if
me.
I was sitting there, right, and a Honda Civic cut me off in traffic, and instead of me just cussing at them, I sit for 2 seconds and say, I'm gonna run over this person with my V8 diesel truck Ford F-250, that would be a response.
This is
because
why
I sat there and thought about
this is why you can't talk to violent people like you about certain
I'm not
principles.
violent.
You poke holes in things on. You're supposed to just.
I'm not violent though.
Let me sound smart, man. But yeah, no. If
I'm
you
fucking
on Lee,
stupid, dude.
If you on Lee were like, dude, this is what I'm gonna do. You sat down and you're like, yeah, I guess I have to kill that man with my V8.
So, going back, try to reel it back a bit.
Yeah,
what you're saying is response is when you think about how to go about this situation instead of just going off your gut feeling. Is that what you're saying?
Almost. And once again, like you said, go into the black and white things. There's a lot of gray areas, so there's never truly an ultimatum. There are always options, and there are always certain situations that tailor to different folks. But if you just keep it as simple as possible, if you react to something, generally, like somebody had an allergic reaction to something, you don't say somebody had an allergic response, or you might. You can ask medical people. Ask your medical friend or your med.
I don't
med
know.
friend.
I think it's officially a reaction, probably.
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying? Right. So like, I responded to the therapy, or I reacted to the therapy. Like, react doesn't sound that great. And kind of getting back to where we kind of dove off the deep end about this, that's when you can, and tethering it all back to it, that's where you can really find out what or who a person is when they're in the most stressful moments of their life. How do they either respond or react to it?
So, yeah, I do sit down and think about things, but I've noticed something about myself is my responses and my reactions, they're kind of, there's a very faded line between them, because most of my responses are pretty, the way I talk to people. I mean, it's very, it's very different from people normally in the South. Most people here are like very, they talk at a normal speed, basically, and like really polite. And me, like over the years, I've developed this really short talk that comes off very rude.
You're blunt.
And that can come off as a reaction sometimes because, well, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat. I don't have time to sugarcoat my words. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
I mean, whether you're a nice Christian grandma down the street, you gave me cookies, or, one of my associates who's associated with another, bad person. I mean, I'm going to talk to y'all the same.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
If I hate you, I hate you.
That's pretty much it.
I'm sorry you wasted your time making me cookies.
That's pretty much it, dude.
Hiccups. Yeah. And I can understand that. I can understand that. But that's just the way that we work.
Yeah, pretty much, dude. The way that we work. Who is that one person? We had a conversation 2 years ago. You said there was one person, and I know we keep going back to high school. We sound like fucking bitter people right now.
We do.
But you're saying that one person was kind of having that moment where they were having a hard time adjusting to, the new reality, basically, outside the bubble.
Yes. Who was that one person?
I don't know.
Or just examples of or like.
It was an example you gave me, dude.
2 years ago.
I don't know. Are you telling me you had multiple people come up to you and say that?
Oh, that told me like.
Yeah, it was like, it's some petty shit. It was like I didn't know what it was like to be popular. I didn't like it was weird being popular all the time because you're expected to act a certain way.
Oh, no, that was in high school. And the person that said that, we were all on a jazz band trip, and it switched my perspective because this was just a cool dude who, had his sarcastic remarks and things like that. But it was a person that I think we both probably grew closer to, but I know that I really grew closer to being in our jazz band with them. And it was kind of like, the reason why he said that was we were all, you remember when they cut us loose and we were exploring Jackson Square and things like that, and we had a chance to run around the cigar bars, and we even went to the place where they had all those vinyls and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was Peaches.
Yeah, Peaches.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's an Urban Outfitters now.
Yeah,
because I was in there the other week.
Yeah, they're gone, man.
But so basically, he said that because he wanted to go on that trip and have fun with just his circle of people. Right. Like, or not, I won't even say that. He just wanted to have a good time on the trip. But the thing was, there were certain things that he wanted to do that he thought were unique experiences to himself. And this is completely my assumption. I could be completely wrong. But I think...
Who knows? I might get him on the episode and he's just going to shit all over you.
Yeah, I mean, he might. But he was tired of the fact that everywhere he went, everybody went. Because people looked up to him and they were like, oh man, you're so cool. And he's like, I'm just being myself. And I can see that it could be tiresome to imagine, like, you like something and a whole bunch of people follow you into something just because they want to follow you. They have no specific interest.
This goes back to the whole people are social animals. They gotta feel like they're part of something.
Exactly. And that, that's a good thing, but it also can be one of our faults. So you had this person who was just trying to have fun, go look at some of these places and be into certain things that individual was into. But you had a whole bunch of people who were following him around who weren't into those things, that were just into being around that individual because they were considered popular or they were so cool. And then you can't have conversations with those people. They're just literally in the way. Like, I would never...
What's the term?
What?
No, I was thinking of something stupid. I was thinking, like, what's the term for that? People like that? Dick lickers? I don't know. That's not a real... I don't know the term. I'm just making up shit.
I do not think that is the, that is the term that has been decided on by the society. But yeah, like, there's some elements of that in there, because it's like they just want to be a part of something so bad, but they don't understand that there are things that you might be into that you think are the coolest things in the world. Like, I just recently got into, and don't even like try to be like, oh, so you're versing this? No, like, anime. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like that junk is cool. It's entertaining. It has a pretty decent story depending on what you watch. But it's like they, I guess, might have been so intimidated in knowing that not everybody's gonna be into what I'm into, or the coolest person who's in the room isn't gonna be into what I'm into, so therefore it's not gonna be cool. And it's not something I should be into. And they just kind of jump on the... And I was the same exact way in high school, man. Like, I look at some of the clothes that I used to have and some of the things I used to do, some of the music I used to listen to, and I was a mess. I was a train wreck.
Dude, like, when it comes to Vietnamese people, right, there's two types. The ones that don't give a fuck, and the hype beast. And I'm proud to say that basically everyone in my family almost is not a hype beast. No, we don't give a fuck.
Like, just kind of chilling.
If you ever see me and all my cousins, we all hang out. We look like a bunch of fucking homeless people, dude. Like, I'm not kidding you, dude. We'll go to like these. I think one time we went to this nice steakhouse. I think my cousin brought like, he was wearing some crazy. He was wearing Crocs for some reason, like sweatpants with holes. Me, I'm just wearing like t-shirt, jeans, like sneakers with the holes falling out the bottom. Like,
your old Nike Dart 9s, probably.
Yeah, I finally threw those away, dude. And I think my cousin showed up in like a fishing shirt. Hey, like, man, we just didn't give a fuck, dude.
Which was that cool cousin that you brought down here one time from, or over here from Miami or whatever?
Not Miami, Tampa. No, Ty.
Ty. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Ty. It's all good.
Yeah, no, Ty was funny. Ty was cool.
Dude, he's hilarious, dude. He's like me. Cool. He's like me, except a little more vulgar, and he's actually going to beat the shit out of someone. Yeah, me, I look like I beat the shit out of someone. Like him, he'll actually do it.
Yeah, Ty was a very interesting fellow, and I loved the experience of meeting him. And then when we all went to go to that sushi place.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yo, dude, he's really I don't know. He used to be kind of a hood rat, dude. He was like, he would think people like me were bougie, right? Yeah. And I go down there, he'd be dressed like, and what the fuck ever. And then he'd like, he would be kind of a hype beast, but not really. It's just like he was just with that group of people who really just did not care. Yeah. But the ironic thing is, they all were valedictorians, right? So they were all really smart people.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, it's kind of funny, dude.
And that is the least racial and stereotypical.
What were you talking about before I cut you off, dude?
When? Like,
we were talking about, like,
where were
people getting, I guess your friend getting tired of being followed around.
Oh, yeah. Like,
you were about to say something good, and then my dumb ass cut you off.
No, I don't think this is just a natural flow of conversation. I just don't, like, I just think that was where it was for that person. Like, there were a lot of people who just didn't want to think or know, or like, once again, they didn't want to think for themselves. And this could be completely different. They could have been completely into the things that individual was into, but he really felt like he was being followed around just for his status, because everybody's like, oh, this dude is so cool. Like, everything that he's into, I'm obviously gonna love, even though.
Well, it probably wasn't Eric, because Eric's kind of like Eric. We're like the nerds that like comics and like video games.
Eric can just sit down and talk to you about some of this stuff that might be out there. Not out there. I can talk to him about anime. I can talk to him about video games. I can talk to him about. We don't really get political because we kind of just both know where we stand. But
is he a little bit different from you? I'd assume he's like.
Politically?
I'd assume he's kind of like. He's definitely in the middle. I find myself in the middle.
We're a part of the no nonsense party.
That's good. That's a good party to be part of.
Yeah, and it's basically like, if you don't think you should be doing it, don't do it.
It's simple. It's so simple.
Like that's the principles of the nonsense party right there. If you don't think you should, then don't. Like it's not complicated.
What if that was someone's slogan for their campaign? What if that was someone's campaign? If you don't think you should do it, don't do it.
I might have voted.
I might have voted for him. I might vote for that person too.
Yeah, I'm saying like it's simple. Like when it comes down to the quicker people learn that all anybody ever wants is to just be treated nicely. Yeah. If you just treat everybody like, it's the golden rule, and it's the reason why they teach you in kindergarten. Treat everybody like you want to be treated. You know, like I would like to not be harassed every step of the way in life. And I'm not saying that I am. So the thing that I do is when I meet other people, I shake their hand, I smile, look them in their eye, and I say, hello, how are you? Good to see you. Things like that. You just don't be a turd to people. That's all it is.
Man, sometimes I wonder if my greeting's a bit of a turd, because what I'll do is like, I'll come up, either give them a firm handshake or do that. What's that handshake called?
I wouldn't.
The whole swing your arm out in someone else's arm. I'll be like, hey, what's up, man?
The classic.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But to some people, that's like extremely rude. Like, there's some people in my family who are like they're pretty bougie, right? Yeah. And then they see me. I'm not talking about my immediate family, but outside, people I barely see, and they'll look at me. My mom's got a good reputation, right? And they think I'm gonna be like this sweet goody two shoes, and then they see me, I'm like, oh my god, your son's a fucking disaster. Your son looks like a disaster. But no, and I'm pretty, and I don't know, dude. No, I try my best to be kind, but it's like to me nice. When people say nice, that's kind of lying. Kind.
Be sincere and genuine.
Exactly.
Be sincere and genuine. And
be kind.
Yeah, and don't be a jerk. That's all it takes. Is if you have something and y'all don't necessarily agree on it, then agree to disagree and move on. Now, I mean, obviously, if one dude's like, "Hey, man, I like to kill kids," as dramatic as that is, I mean, maybe y'all don't run together anymore. That's understandable.
Yeah, just
maybe you call the cops on them. But in the regular situations, like oh man, I'm this and I'm that. We can't be friends. No, you can be friends, but you can agree to disagree and just move on. Like, just let that one stay outside. Or even better yet, address it and respect each other's viewpoints. And just because you respect it doesn't mean that you have to believe in it. It just means that you've practiced empathy. You put yourself in their shoes. You say, hey, I understand your story. Hopefully you understand mine. We're moving on.
Man, you were talking about school. I wonder how school is going to be like in the future. Because school, when we came up, right?
Yes.
Obviously, people would get bullied. Yes. It'd be like, here's an example. I'm going to pull from my cousin or somebody, their high school experience. It'd be like two people shout at each other. I was like, hey, you look like a chode. And the other guy was like, hey, fuck you. And then they just walk to class. Nowadays, like, you make fun of Christina's shitty drawing, and you got the whole national news on you. You got the parent squad. They're about to burn down your house because you made fun of this person's drawing. You kind of see what I mean?
Yeah, it's and this kind of plays back to what we talked about earlier, and I like how everything is coming full circle. My dad's told me, and your dad's told you, we're our generation, and that's one thing that the generation ahead of us has on us. Like, we're not as tough as they are. And that's only, I only need people to apply those to the situations in which they apply. What I mean by that is, a bad day for us could be I didn't get enough likes on my picture. As basic as that sounds. You know, the picture I posted on Instagram. That could be a bad day for me.
Right.
That could have been a bad day for me when I was 18. A bad day for somebody else when they were 18. You know, in my dad's generation might have been like, oh, my name got called during the draft today. Looks like I have to go to war. Or, hey, my best friend that I grew up with from across the street, he has to go to war. Or he has lupus, and that's a disease that kills in this time. You know, or like imagine there's just so many aspects that are different and a little bit easier.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and you know, now don't get me wrong. Obviously, and it could be for some people, but I am nowhere near as hurt now as if I posted a picture and only 30 people liked it.
I mean, it's arbitrary.
Yeah,
the fact we're even discussing this in the first place, it's stupid.
Yeah. But it matters. It matters.
Comparison is the thief of joy. You have to understand that.
I think you said something. You said something with that. Yeah, comparison. Dang. Okay.
It is the thief of joy. Dude, you can't... Look, if some hot, big-tittied Asian girl gets more likes than me, like, I don't care. She's hot. Of course she's going to get more likes than me, dude.
Yeah.
Or this other dude who's, you know... He's a superstar at school, or he's like a superstar football player. Yeah, he's going to get more likes to me. Nobody knows what I'm doing. I don't care. People don't need to know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Let me bring up the
only person who needs to know what I'm doing is me.
You.
Is me at the end of the day.
And the weird person that's watching you. But let me bring up the example of with comparison being the thief of joy. This is a big example, and I've had to like deal with myself in this issue. But Greg, being as awesome as he is, and can we plug Ezra Waters on here?
Yeah, we can plug Greg.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do? He's gonna be like, hey, you can't use my name. He ain't gonna do shit.
Yeah, no. But like, congratulations to him. He's doing some awesome things. Like, you know, in the music industry, and not industry, but in the field of being a musician. I'm really happy for him.
Right.
I love it for him. But when it was first,
I love the money he pays me too to work on mixes. We'll continue.
Yeah, I don't get paid anything. I'm just a friend that kind of doesn't do anything that deserves payment.
I'm trying to shit on you, dude. Continue.
But yeah, like, and I'm not even hurt because I don't do anything that, like, he owes me nothing, obviously. But like, you know, there were situations where when he first really started, you know, making music, I wasn't upset. I wasn't anything like that because we had that long talk in the car ride the last time we were all here together. You know, I have to learn how to ignite my own fire and do my own drive to do the things that I care about. But then, you know, this past year recently for him has been big. Like, you know, I forgot how many thousands of views he had for his I
mean, for artists who starting out, having anywhere above 10K is a really good start.
Exactly. And so like when I first saw that, I'm sitting at the job and you know, I'm sitting in my office and I'm like, man, like, I was actually bitter because I was so upset because there were two things I thought. I was like, well, there are a couple of things I thought, and I'm not going to, like, kind of tie them all down to a number. I'm just going to spew them out until I get them all out. But the first thing was like, well, now since he's famous for doing this, I can never achieve my dream, or I could never operate in music in the way of which I would want to. And I remember you told me about that. Just be happy to, if you really love and enjoy music, which I've had to learn that I authentically do, it shouldn't matter who's watching. It shouldn't matter who pays you to make it. You should be able to, like we said, when you sent me the video of that dude playing the synth, and you said, like, dude, the dream is to just have a room that's filled with all these that I can just go into and mess around on, you know, for hours and hours on end. And, you know, but if you can do that and you can create music at that capacity and you're not the most famous person in the world, you should be very, 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 very content. You shouldn't even be content. You should be joyful about that because you still get to be somewhat in the field of which you really enjoy. So that could mean you're working an office job, but you can still make that music. Go ahead.
No, a lot of young rappers I work with, right?
Yeah.
They fall into this trap of they're kind of spiteful in a way. Their whole operation. No, like the reason you can hear it in their music, obviously their lyrics, the way they deliver, the type of instrumentals they choose. I'm not gonna say it's devil music, but it's like you could tell there's a little bit of hateful resentment in it, and they're not trying to have fun. Now, before we talk about that, I do understand hip hop came from the best kind of hip hop does come from people who suffer. Kind of like the best kind of comedy comes from people who are kind of fucked up. So I understand that's where it comes from, but it's a very dangerous slope to walk because all they're talking about is quote unquote flexing on these hoes, pulling up in foreign, having a nice ass watch. But I mean, you have to understand, like, the older people get, the less people give a fuck. And the people who do give a fuck who are still your age, I mean, do you really want to be associated with those idiots? Do you really want to stoop down to that level of these lying ass hoes? Do you really want to, like, the fact you are devoting time to writing a verse about them, that's the biggest fucking waste of time I heard in my life, dude.
Because they won at that point.
Yeah.
And you've even, I
told one of the artists, like, dude, she's not gonna listen to this, dude. She's just out there sucking dick. So stop wasting your time.
Stop worrying about it.
Stop worrying about these trashy people who will never contribute anything to your life.
Exactly. You should be writing things to impress yourself, first off and foremost. Right. And then, things that other people whose opinions matter, and I'm talking about their constructive criticism, would want to listen to. I'm not going to write a song I'm not going to write a song with say if I was even writing music, I wouldn't write a song on the standard to impress my old flame. I would write it on the standard to impress myself and somebody like Kendrick or Anderson .Paak or, Jay-Z, the people or Isaiah Rashad, like the people who I actually admire. Yeah. Because if you put out this old spiteful stuff, it gets so old and gets so tiresome. Like, what did J. Cole say in that song? Like, what is it, 1985? And I only say that because I don't really look at the titles. I just kind of listen to the music. But basically the whole thing about this SoundCloud wave, and I'm not going to use that as a derogatory term, but some of these new age artists who are riding a certain wave right now, when we get to be 35 or 40 years old, I'm pretty sure, and this isn't a dig at them, I'm pretty sure that I would put on Earth Gang or Anderson or J. Cole or Kendrick and reminisce and enjoy the art that they gave me rather than, turning on Lil Pump necessarily. Right. But, hey, there might be some situations where I put on Lil Pump in the future when I'm 40. I might be turning up with some friends at a reunion or something. We're having fun, just being crazy. But the point is like, it's not going to last the test of time. Like, some of these cats like Nas's music. Yeah. How long has that man been around?
Illmatic is still considered one of the best rap albums of all time.
That's my point exactly.
Yeah.
And, how that'll be heralded for a long time. Like, people will go back and look. And, Tupac isn't necessarily even my cup of tea.
Even think about Miles Davis, Kind of Blue.
Oh, yeah.
That's considered a national treasure by the U.S.
Yeah.
And even though, jazz is not mainstream, a lot of jazz musicians, they look at that as it's kind of the holy grail.
The
kind of started this whole new era of, cool jazz in a way.
Yeah.
And to them, that's the holy grail to them.
Exactly. And these things that, that you create that are timeless are created just out of self-expression and the joy that you take in being a part of that. You don't sit down and write or do your best work when you're necessarily stressed. Correct. So, yeah, I think you know where that is.
I think time is the greatest equalizer.
It is.
Because time will kill beauty. Oh, yeah. Time will, show you whether you're successful or not. Mm-hmm. Time is the great equalizer.
It is.
Because your quote-unquote enemies, they're either dead or they're suffering or they're doing well. Maybe that really weird kid who didn't do so well, like the 2.03 Godfather in engineering school, now has a job at NASA as a lead engineer. I mean, you just never know.
You never do. And it's like time is seriously so important, and kind of digging into the anime that I've been watching recently. And you can laugh at me for this.
Are you watching Steins Gate?
No, I'm watching things like My Hero Academia.
Dude, that show is fun, dude.
Yeah, what is it? What are some good ones? Assassination Classroom is funny but weird. Dead Man Wonderland is one I've completed.
That was a weird show, dude.
Yeah, but there are a few cool things. But like Dragon Ball Z. So you remember when Vegeta wanted to get better than Goku, and they were training for, I think it was to fight Cell. What did they do?
They bonded together. They did the whole.
No, you remember they went into the time chamber, or is that a? You know, I might have just.
I don't know, dude.
Stupid. But anyways, the point is, like you said, time is a great equalizer, and they literally went into a chamber in which they could train longer and harder, and that essentially gave them more time, because that's what either sharpens your sword or dulls your blade. Is time,
and discipline, obviously.
Yeah. Whatever that is. Yeah, no, because if you're disciplined, you know, you can stack a pebble a day, and you know, day 1 it doesn't seem like a lot. Day 50 it might not seem like a lot, but you know, day 1,347, you're looking at a pretty big stack of pebbles, right?
It's the same thing as saving $5 a day.
Oh yeah.
Save it for a week, you got $35.
Yeah, have you seen
save it for like a year, you have like $1,800.
Mm-hmm.
Save that for like 2 years, and you know, it's just like saving.
Have you seen the plan of like where you put on week 1 you put $1 away, on week 2 you put $2 away, on week 3 you put $3 away, on week 4 and you know, all the way up to 52. I think you end up with like $1,500 in your saving account at the end of the year.
Yep,
and that's a lot of money.
Every paycheck I get, I'm putting 50 into kind of like a Roth IRA. I decided to start building up a retirement fund, because I don't trust fucking Social Security to be around. I mean, they just now, like, one of my friends, teacher, he told me a story about, there's this guy who served in, I think, Desert Storm or something, or Vietnam, whatever. They're so behind on paying their soldiers that this soldier got a random $500,000 check one day. He said, I don't know what to do with this money. So he walks into Best Buy, buys $20,000 worth of things. He buys like 4 flat screen TVs, a home stereo system, Xbox One, and a stereo. He's like, I don't know what to do with this money. Let me just go dump $20,000. You know what I mean?
That's the type of person I want to be when I grow up.
So that's why I'm saying I do not trust the government or Social Security to give me like a stable retirement.
Trust yourself.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, if you screw up, you screw up. Like, you can't be waiting on other people to do it for you.
I mean, when's the last time the government actually did anything for you? I mean, my health insurance premium went up, so I went from having to like help out $50 a month to like $250. And as a broke 16-year-old, you know how fucking pissed I was?
I'm still on my parents' insurance, so I can't.
I gotta
talk about that.
So here's the thing, right? I always try to help out. My mom always encouraged me, like, even though I have a great life, she always said, I'm gonna teach you the old country ways. You're gonna chip in, motherfucker, or you're not living here. Yeah. That's why she like, I gotta cook. Obviously, cooking's not a big deal. I gotta help out with bills.
Yeah.
You know, just chip in.
So I pay, my way of chipping in is basically they just told me don't do anything stupid. Don't get hurt. I pay all my own bills since I live by myself.
That's a given in a Vietnamese family, man. Yeah. You do something stupid, they'll like, chop off your testicles, dude.
They're like, we'll let you stay on the insurance unless you do something that makes us think otherwise. Like, so if you're going out here and just like drinking dirt water and getting sick, or like licking up people's like dog business off their yard, then yeah, we're gonna take you off the health insurance.
You're not our son anymore.
Yeah, you're a liability at that point. You're a liability, but like that's kind of where it is with that.
But on the other hand, like my mom has a lot of rich friends who their kids just fuck up all the time, dude. Like they'll wreck cars here and there.
Oh yeah, because you got money to do it.
Well, here's the thing, right? And I don't want to donate on my mom too much, but she's on the same level, if not better off than them. Because from their businesses, who did they borrow the money from? Not the bank.
Who?
My mother.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
So it's like, I like that about my mom. It's because we started off poor, right? But I got to see her grow into this basically beast. This person who's kicking ass.
This mogul.
So, I mean, to me, that was awesome because I didn't realize this at first, but she was raising me in a way where she didn't want me just to have everything. She wanted me to know what it was like to earn everything. And that's why I like my mom. She's awesome.
Yeah, no, your mom sounds like from the occasions of which I've met her, which she just seems like the most lovely human being, along with your dad.
And that's why my cousins from the hood, they love me. Because they say, even though you have everything in the world and your life is great, you act like it's not. And it's hilarious. Not in a bad way, but they
you
just
act like there's always more to do.
Exactly.
There's always, you can always go higher.
Hence why I'm stupid enough to have 5 part-time jobs. And I say part-time very, just kind of throwing it out there because all these jobs are unstable. They
Yeah. They're business ventures right now. That's what we'll call them.
They are. Most of them are business disasters right now. If I'm being real with myself, dude.
As long as you're being real with yourself, that's what counts.
You gotta be real with yourself, dude. Like when you're working for yourself, it's gotta be black and white, dude.
Oh yeah, no, you can't sugarcoat that.
Yeah, because if you don't pay your bills, well, guess what it is in your house? It's black because you don't have lights.
I still gotta pay my power bill.
Damn.
Yeah.
You better get on that, dude.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. They'll cut off your power, dude, and then your water.
I live right across the street from Alabama Power, so that ain't that bad.
What are you gonna do? Hey, give me some power, man. I need to borrow some power really quick.
Probably. I mean, I do what you got. You do what you got to.
So I want to ask one more thing. I want to ask how you dealt with basically starting from scratch, because I had a friend recently who got cheated on in a 5-year relationship.
Yes,
and it absolutely destroyed him.
Yes.
Right? So I was going to ask you, did it destroy you? Or I want you to talk about your experience on that.
So my experience on being in a relationship in which things just didn't work out well. So, and just for the sake of being honest, what's up?
And also, we're not just talking about relationships. We're talking about the whole aspect of
just life.
Building back up from zero, eating shit, and coming back up, kind of deal.
Yeah, like that's the only thing on the menu for me right now. So basically, what happened was I was in a relationship, and I'm pretty sure I told you because I told my dad, I told anybody who really cared about it, that there were some things that I messed up on too. There were some situations in which like I didn't actively do anything, but my passiveness is what is just as bad. And I'm not saying like, some girl was like, hey, let me come to your room and do this and blah, blah, blah. Like that didn't happen. It was all phone stuff, and we're not even going to get into that. So, there were faults on both sides. But the thing is that I think what was so significant about it was my first real serious relationship. And it was also the first one in which I had somebody tell me that you're not the only person that I've been seeing, even though I've been telling you this. So that messed me up. Breaking up with that person because it was kind of a mutual agreement. We both kind of, did our best to move on. I take a lot longer to move on just because of, I like to reminisce. I like to sit in it, all that good stuff. So I eventually found somebody else, and by eventually, I mean like literally 3 months later, that relationship didn't work out too well. So this was all happening during college. I went through and finished up my last 2.5 years of college single, or my last 1.5 to 2 years completely single. Like, not really hanging out with anybody or doing anything like that. Like, I had a few people that I'd hang out with every now and then, but, it wasn't anything more than going to see a movie.
Right.
Or going to the caf. So, when I graduated, I still felt like there were a lot of pieces of me up in the air. There were a lot of things that I still didn't give myself a chance to feel. a chance to understand just because I've been keeping up with everybody else. So, where you went to New York for your little excursion, and not excursion, but more business. My senior gift, I just begged my parents to pay for a trip for me to go to Nashville for 3 days by myself. And I deleted Snapchat, deleted Instagram.
Went off the grid, dude.
Yeah, exactly. So I was up in Nashville in the Cold Springs area. Never really been there before in my life. I was in an area that I did not know. And well, granted, it was only for 4 days. It was still an experience in which the plan was to go up there. I had my machine with my music. I had my Bible and I had my notebook. And basically all I was going to do was have fun sitting down, watching Netflix and working on music, and then reading the Bible and trying to make sense of myself. And one of the questions that I had to ask myself, and one of the things that I really realized that I struggle with, is women and how I'm perceived. And that took up a huge chunk of things in my notebook.
Wait, say that again?
Women and how I am perceived.
By women?
Mainly by women, but just sometimes just by anybody. It all depends.
Okay.
You know, like, I don't care as much about the people who really know me, how their perception of me, because I know they know who I am at my core. But it's those people that you're in the purgatory with, like, it can go either way. You kind of know them, you kind of don't. But, you know, they took up a lot of pages in my notebook. And one thing I realized was I was trying to force myself to, you know, want to make music or force myself to do all these things that were cool because I was being spiteful. I wanted everybody to see, like, he's on his thing now. Look at him pushing those foreigns, you know, with his, you know, dab of ranch and all that good stuff. But it really came down to, and then it kind of echoes off of what you said and what Greg said, just be happy working in, you know, whatever brings you joy, you know, no matter who's seeing it. And one question I had to ask myself is, all the things that I am, all the things that my goals are going towards, if nobody knew about them, would I still be happy if I achieved it?
Would you still be doing it, basically?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, with music, I'm not posting anything now, and I don't want people to think like I'm out here, like, I'm doing what, you know, you said you don't really, you know, make beats anymore. Like, with me, I still sit down with my machine and I'll pull something out and make something that I enjoy, that I like, and I don't do anything with it. I just like the way that it sounds, and that's fun to me, and I'm enjoying that. And I would like to be in a position in life that allows me to do that more often and get better at it and, you know, get more versed. But kind of getting back to the whole, like, starting over thing from the very bottom, what that trip in Nashville kind of gave me the beginnings of was breaking myself down and, you know, rebuilding, because I built on a really shaky foundation, and I built quickly, and I was shooting for quantity over quality. And then what really knocked me down another peg was when I got my first job that I'm currently working now in the real world, and I realized, like, there's nobody to make me do the things that I love other than myself.
So when you got this job,
yeah,
did you have sort of were you sort of down about it, or were you happy you had a job? Be honest, because I know, you know,
I was thankful that I had a job, but I was down about the fact that this was my first experience in, like, a suit and tie office industry. Like, I didn't, you know, it wasn't like you could screw up and everything's going to be okay. Like, there was a lot of pressure. And that's what I was really concerned about, because it's like, it's not like in school where you can just idly lay by and get that C. They'll fire you if you're not giving your all, or if they sense that, you know, and you're not doing a good job. So I was really, you know, kind of shaken by that. And that was one of those things that, like, took me down to really invest in myself and figure out, what are my belief systems? You know, like who am I truly? And I can still look you in your eyes today and tell you that I don't truly know. There's a lot of work that I still have to do.
Dude, it's a journey, man.
Yeah. No, this is a lifelong thing, and even then you don't figure it out.
Every day and every year, it's you learning more about yourself and figuring things about how you deal with things.
Yeah.
And another thing is people need to understand there's no finish line in life. That's the crazy part. David Goggins, you ever heard of him? He's like this crazy. Basically, the only thing I remember from his story, like he's a Navy SEAL. When he was like around our age, he was like 280 pounds, and he wanted to go into like the Navy SEALs. And they told him, "You gotta lose 105 pounds."
Is it that black dude?
Yep.
The ball. Yeah, I've seen that story.
He said that story. And one of the things that stuck to me that he said was, "There's no such thing as a finish line. It's the same shit every day. You got to keep going and going and going, and then you die." Now, to some people, that's a little depressing, but that's the reality of it. It doesn't have to be depressing, but that should be a mantra that most people live by. It should be that every day you're working for something, and every day you are going to be working for something towards a goal.
Yeah.
So,
and that's important. And you know, I remember sitting down and watching his little 16-minute video because it was him and that he was sitting in that lounge chair talking to that other guy, and he was on some dude's show, right, on YouTube, and he even talked about how he was running. He had to run 75 miles or something like that, and was peeing on himself and clapping on himself. And,
dude, here's a crazy story, man. He said he ran 120 miles in like record time or something.
Yeah,
I forgot how much time.
And he just would not stop.
Yeah.
And like there's a certain thing that, and we all have something like that in us. It's just whether we choose to do the things that it takes to get there. You know, like if you really want to make it and be your own boss or your own entrepreneur, you can't be saying, all right, well, no matter what's happening, as soon as 10:30 gets here, I'm hopping into bed. You know, like, because I'm going to be tired. Well, sometimes it's going to take those nights to where you might have been up since 8 o'clock the next day, and you got to go through a whole nother work day before you can even get home and go to sleep again. Exactly. And, you know, to be successful, it takes those things. It takes, like you said, time. It takes time, it takes discipline, and at the end of the day, a little bit of
luck too.
Yeah, a little bit.
But what you're doing for working, when you're doing all that crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
You're preparing yourself. Yeah. Everything is preparation. Opportunity is, here's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Opportunity is, well, this is actually a real quote. I think opportunity is where preparation and luck meet. Oh, I fucked that up. Let me see.
Is it a quote that you came up with?
No, hell no. That's not a quote I came up with.
Because I was like, we can spin that however we wanted to, on. That's your own intellectual property. But it makes sense because, you know, you have to be standing and ready and pushing against that door. Or not necessarily pushing against that door. You need to be standing, you need to be ready, so when that door opens, you're running through it. If you're looking the other way or you're sitting down, when that door opens, you're not gonna be prepared for it. You know, nothing in life is left up to chance, I don't really think. I think everything really happens for a reason. And everything that you go through, provided that you're working your hardest and you're putting in, you know, all the sweat to grow in the situation that you're in, rewards come from that. Rewards do come from that. You know?
In other words, everything's your fault.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember you told me that was kind of your viewpoint. We were headed to the studio one time and you were showing me around and you were just saying, like, you know, I'm not saying that there is a divine creation. I'm not saying that there isn't, but I do know that everything that I do here is on my hands. That was like the gist of it.
Right.
And I respect that, you know, and it's like, I'm not going to say, or at least with my relationship and my religion, that I don't believe that if I just sit here and wish, I'm going to get it. No, you know, I believe that if I sit here and I'm like, bless me with the wisdom and guidance to do these things, and I put in my effort, I will either get something that I want or get something better than that. Because if you work, at the end of the day, if you work and you work hard, That's all that matters. There will be avenues for you. You know, like water, you have to be like a stream essentially, or like water. If there is a crack, water finds it. And water will run through it and erode it, you know, day after day, month after month, year after year, until you end up with something like the Grand Canyon.
You ever been to the Grand Canyon?
Nope.
You should. It's a beautiful and humbling experience.
I'm sure it is for people who have money to see it.
You got a job. You got a more stable job than me, dude. Yeah, the fuck are you talking about, dude?
And my parents, what makes me mad is my parents, they even went out to Vegas and they got to see the Grand Canyon and all that stuff while I was, I think I was in school and I forgot why they were going out there. They were going, no, it wasn't. It was, I had my job and they were like, yeah, so your dad, my mom was like, yeah, so your dad has a conference out there in Vegas. So we're going to go out there and have fun and we'll send y'all pictures and stuff. And they basically just talked my little brother and I's ears off about how great it was and how we have to go one of these days. So yeah, I'm kind of.
Have you ever been to Smoky Mountains too? I went with my cousin last year, and there was something about it. There was this one mountain called like Knife Point Ridge, where you drive up on the road, and when you're staring at it, you're staring at the face of the mountain, and you're basically roughly like 50 yards out. You're looking at basically a wall that is 2 miles high. It's gorgeous, and it's whenever you go out and just see those things, all your problems just kind of melt away. It's kind of like, you know, when you go outside. One of my friends told me this: is whenever you're feeling down, just go outside and look at the stars, and just realize how little anything means. Right? That sounds depressing, right? But when I did that, I felt like, wow, it gave me that sense of, you know, gratitude. And it gave me that sense of realizing, you know, how little this all means in a way.
Yeah, I apply that to my failures usually. The fact that the universe is so big, people will fail hundreds of thousands of times. Or people have failed billions of times before you even got here, and people will fail billions of times after you leave. So the thing is you can live as carefully as possible and make just a few mistakes throughout your life. Or you can make as many as you can because none of it matters anyways, and hoping that the mistakes that you made that are leading towards your success gifts you with something that can last and that can actually mean something in this universe that we have.
I'd rather say, oh well, than I wish.
Yeah, you remember how Mr. Bubbit used to yell at us and he's like, he used to be like, what was it? He said, if you're going to make a mistake, make it loud, make it proud, act like you meant to do it. And he said he wouldn't be anywhere near as angry. I mean, he'd still be furious, but he wouldn't be anywhere.
That man lied.
But his heart was in the right place when he told us, like, if you're gonna make a mistake. Don't be timid about it. You know. And so I'm like, that is one of the most important.
That's an important lesson, but I don't think it really encouraged people to make a mistake loud because he'd still get mad either way.
Yeah, no. In rehearsals, it was you could make a mistake loud, but you know when district came around.
I mean, obviously in performances, no, that's like go time, dude. That's like
you should not be making any mistakes.
That's the equivalent of someone not calculating for Bridges' like strength 2 feet off, and now, oops, I guess 5,000 people just died. Oops.
Oh
well.
Like, what was it? I was speaking to a man. He works in our engineering department,
right?
And at the school I work at, and he literally said, you know, like doctors, if y'all mess up, you only kill a person at a time. Engineers, we kill thousands of people at a time if we mess up. And like that is so you know, making mistakes and being loud and proud about it works. And once again.
It works in life, but
it works in certain areas.
Obviously, in those fields, you can't be like
no.
I think that's a given, dude.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do to like that family of people? It's like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I built that bridge 2 feet off and killed all those people.
Sorry, your house fell on you and all of your family inside of it.
I'm sorry, Sprinkles died because I didn't realize you built your house on top of a tectonic plate, but
whoops,
oops.
Yeah, like, you know, that doesn't work for that. But in life, in the principles of chasing your dreams and things like that, mistakes have to be made.
Mistakes will be made.
Yeah, absolutely.
But going back to Grand Canyon.
Yes.
That's a place I want to visit again. And Zion National Park. Because because there's a, I don't know what you call it, but there's a trail you can take, right? And you're basically in between just two walls of like rock. That makes sense. And it's gorgeous. I think I have the picture my mom sent me, but it's like it's just that trail for miles and miles and miles. And people have died on that trail because like when it rains, the currents get really, they get really fast because that water's got to go somewhere. So if you get swept up in that current, you're going for like 7 miles, dude.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Quickly, I imagine.
Quickly. Very quickly. But that's a place I really want to visit someday.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, I will. I'm trying to get my cousins to go because we've been trying to do more outdoor stuff lately.
Yeah.
And it's great, dude.
That'll definitely be fun. That'll be a good time.
You ever been deep sea fishing, dude?
No, but I've been in the deep sea.
You been diving?
No, but I've been snubaing, which is like snorkeling and scubaing. The depth was 15 feet.
Oh. I'm talking about deep sea. I'm talking about where you're fishing in waters that are like basically more than 100 feet. Not 100 feet. But it's
the
pretty
ship
damn.
I was on went through waters that were that deep because
it's pretty damn deep.
They were like, I think we checked the sea depth one time. It was like 9,000 feet deep or something like that.
Oh yeah, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, the ocean is a very scary and unforgiving place.
And that's what's so beautiful about it, because once you get off the coast, right? There's just something really. There's something that there's just this sort of peace of mind I get. When I look out there and it's just ocean. There's nothing.
That is not how I felt. I mean, I felt that way afterwards, but when you're on the cruise and the guy, well, blessings out to his family, but did you hear about the guy who went missing on the Carnival cruise? Like he fell overboard.
Yeah.
And it was like at night.
Damn.
Those waters are pitch black at night, dude. And so if you fall off, there is no chance that anybody's going to find you.
Nobody's going to find him. That's a scary thing, man. Mother Nature doesn't give a fuck, dude.
No, she really doesn't. She really does not. Like, you have to always be with it when you're messing with Mother Nature, because it's like, I don't really let you call mulligans. You kind of just screw up. And if you decided to test my laws of gravity and you're 50 feet up in the air and you fall and kill or die, like that's just how it is.
That's just how it be. Sometimes it be like that. It do be like that.
Yeah. Sometimes it do be like that.
Man, since we're talking about like oceans and stuff, did you hear that story about that that Christian guy who went on like an island that had not had any outside contact and then he got shot up by arrows? Did you hear that story?
Yeah, I think that I've watched like a few YouTube videos on things that deal with that, and it's like, just don't test it.
Yeah, don't. There's just things out there you can't mess with, dude.
Yeah, like generally it's not a good idea to be the first person to do anything.
So here's my, I was really confused at first. I thought I didn't realize he actually made it on the island. I thought the dude got sniped while he was trying to kayak to the island, and these guys just was like. So what I was thinking was like, these dudes either have crossbows or this is a society that's developed weapons to the highest caliber, but they have not developed clothes.
No, they still have sticks and stones out there. They still kill you with, like you said, bow and arrows and stuff like that.
What if they had something like a plasma cannon, dude?
They probably do.
They have it's such an advanced society that they don't need clothes. They just have, it's just a random island with a plasma cannon just in the middle. So that dude didn't even get shot by arrows. He just got blasted by a plasma cannon.
If there's ever any lesson that life is going to teach you, is to never put anything past anyone. And I think that's one of those situations. Yeah. But they would have to be able to survive the terrible viruses that we bring to them first.
That's true. You might have a plasma cannon, but have you ever heard of
Hep C?
Have you ever heard of swine flu
or mesothelioma? What do those commercials say?
Oh, it said, if your loved one has been affected by mesothelioma, you may be entitled to compensation.
Exactly. Like,
lawyers are so fucking slimy, dude.
The common cold could kill them. I'm pretty sure.
It's true.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't even have to be as extreme as those.
Dude, a mosquito probably could. No, actually, I don't know.
One of our mosquitoes could.
One of the Americans' mosquitoes.
Yeah, the trans fats and certain things that mosquito would bring to the game would not be good for that individual.
That's hilarious, dude.
It's truth. True things can be funny.
Yeah, it's so true, dude. Is there a country you want to visit, man?
Is there a country I want to visit?
Yeah, man. Besides Germany, because I know you just kind of threw that out there.
Yeah, I threw Germany out there. Let me see. I want to visit New Zealand. I would like to visit Finland. I think. Give me a second. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's somewhere in Europe, I think. Nope. No, that's really about it. Yeah, New Zealand, but I would love to. Oh, Spain would be cool.
Spain is cool. Yeah.
What do you mean it's cool? Have you been there?
Yeah. Okay. On a great trip.
Congratulations for you, huh?
I can tell you're getting really mad.
Yeah, a little bit. But because from what I understand, like their architecture out in places like that are really, really cool. Yeah.
Now I do know when I went to Japan, I enjoyed it too. It was just the Asian America. That's all it was. But everyone's so polite there.
So it's not an Asian America. It's just...
Yeah, good point. and not believe it or not, viewers or listeners, not everyone there looks like an anime, like an actual anime. No.
Yeah. My cousin went out there and he's like 6 foot and black, and he said he was so just.
They actually don't like foreigners very much.
But people were very interested in him. He said that there was like a little kid who was playing with the car in the subway train behind. Like they were in the subway, and the little kid was playing with the car in the seat behind him, and the little kid dropped the car. So my cousin picks it up and hands it back to him, and like the little kid sees the color of the hand that's giving him the toy. And his eyes get really, really wide, and he looks up at my cousin. And so my cousin turns around, and the little kid drops the toy again. So he'll pick it up and hand it to him. So basically, he kept doing this until his mom caught on to what he was doing and told him to stop. Yeah, because they were just so enamored by, a black dude.
Dude, I felt that way in Vietnam because when I went, I'm 5'11", 240-pound built Vietnamese dude. So I'm basically bigger than 97% of the country. So it was almost the same way because they also knew I was foreign because my Vietnamese accent is terrible. It sounds basically sounds like a very slangy country out in the middle of nowhere Vietnamese accent to the point it's like, yeah, this dude's American.
Yeah.
So that's pretty weird too because most of the time I didn't even talk. I just let my family do the talking because, they're all from Vietnam.
Yeah.
I was born here.
It only makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, they knew I was American, dude. I mean, I'm like twice their body weight, twice their height. I probably smelled like a Big Mac, too, when I went there.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is with culture sometimes, man. They know.
They know. They sense it. They sense weakness.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's the end of this episode, dude. It's been 2 hours.
Oh, has it?
Yeah, it's been 2 hours, dude.
Oh, dude, this has been fun.
It's been fun, dude. I'm just hungry now, dude.
Same.
Dude. James Barlow, thanks for coming on this episode, dude.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you putting this together.
No problem. I just got to stop being lazy and actually edit all the episodes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I would love to, definitely, I'd love to be on again sometime. So hopefully by the next time you send me that text to do it, I will have done something more with my life.
Don't worry, dude. We're all, like I said earlier, we're all in the shits together.
We are.
All right. Thank you, James. Thank you all for listening. Have a good night or
Peace.
day, whatever. Peace out. Oops.
Did you delete everything?
No, I didn't delete.